You are now listening to Playbook Radio. Here is your host, Martin Williams.
This week's training. My name is Martin Williams with Playbook Strategies, and you can check me out at gameplanplaybook.com. That's the website. Gonna be doing some work on it, so it's gonna look a little like it's under construction. And that was actually the name of one of my, old podcasts. So it's appropriate that, we're kind of going back there to basically, kind of redo the website, make it a little cleaner, a little more streamlined in the direction that, I want to take, my practice and, just helping people. So today, what I wanted to talk to you about, this is a kind of like a weekly training, and my goal is to do, one of these per week, and with the hopes of, just helping people, wherever they are, right? So one of the things that I often go through myself, as well as countless other people, is this feeling of being stuck. And maybe you've been stuck in different ways. Maybe you've been stuck financially. Maybe you've been stuck emotionally, stuck in your career, stuck in relationships, stuck in a variety of ways. And it's not a good feeling. Certainly not something that is enjoyable. It's not something that you want to stay in for a lengthy period of time. But we have to, I think, reframe what it means to be stuck. And I think people want to get unstuck so quickly that they're losing sight of why they're stuck in the first place. And more importantly, how to create a framework where you don't get stuck as much moving forward. You don't want to be stuck for 5 years and then get out and then get stuck again for another 5 years. You want to get to a point where, you realize, okay, I'm feeling stuck again. This is what I know I need to do to move forward. So I wanted to find what it means to be stuck, and anything that, resonates with you, certainly, take it to heart. If it doesn't resonate, then that's fine too. But what does it mean to feel stuck? Well, when you're stuck financially, you're kind of stuck at an income level. You've been at an income level for some time. You've been at a lifestyle level for some time, and nothing seems to, you just can't seem to break out of it, can't seem to move past it. And so that feels frustrating, right? Feels frustrating that can't seem to get ahead, can't seem to save. As soon as you save a little bit of money, it goes away. Something comes up and you're kind of back where you started. Being stuck in your career, you're basically stuck at the same type of job that you were at 10 years ago, or in the same type of employment environment where you once were, some years ago, and it feels like nothing is moving, nothing is really happening to move you forward in your career. Stuck in relationships, perhaps you desire to get married and, you're still single, or, you're meeting people that are not marriage material, or you are afraid of commitment. It's some combination of the two. Maybe, you get good people and you continue to mess those situations up. You continue to mess those relationships up, and they just fall apart for whatever reason, right? And it's a frustrating feeling, because you feel like, well, I'm not moving forward. I'm in the same place I've been in for the last 5 years, last 10 years. So that's another piece of feeling stuck. Being stuck health-wise, can't lose weight, can't gain weight. if that's the desire of yours. Can't move past this diagnosis that the doctor gave you. Can't move past this chronic pain or chronic illness. Okay. So there's a lot of different ways of feeling stuck. And sometimes there's a purpose in it. It's not that God is punishing you, but sometimes there's a purpose in the stuckness, right? Sometimes the purpose is teaching us something. We're learning something about ourselves. We're learning something about, our choices, our habits. We're learning something about our maturity level. Okay. Uh, the school system, back when I went to school, they wouldn't let you graduate until you could pass the test, right? If you couldn't pass the test, then they wouldn't let you leave that school. And there were some kids who looked a little older than everyone else because they hadn't passed the exams. They hadn't done the necessary work, right? I by no means was a 4.0 student in high school. But I was able to pass enough tests to leave on time, right? And that's how life really is. I said back in my day, now, they just let kids go from grade to grade, um, even if they're not necessarily ready for the next grade. And some of that is life too, isn't it? Sometimes there's things where, you kind of get thrust into it and you're not really ready for it, but you kind of get ready. Parenthood is a lot like that, where you never felt like you were ready and you just learned on the job. Marriage, you learn on the job, right? There's no real book that prepares you for either one of those things, but you just learn, right? But getting back to being stuck, when you're stuck, it's a feeling of frustration. It's a feeling of, will I ever get out? And a lot of times what happens when people are stuck is that they make impulsive decisions because they feel like if I don't take a chance now, it'll never happen. It doesn't mean that you should never take a chance. It doesn't mean that you should never take a risk, but there's such a thing as a calculated risk. And there's such a thing as ill-advised risk. I was going to say something else, but an ill-advised risk where there's no upside, right? The difference between a calculated risk and an ill-advised risk is that with a calculated risk, the upside is greater than the downside. Okay. For instance, if you pay a bill earlier than expected, that might decrease your cash flow, right? Or decrease your cash reserves for a short period of time. But the upside is that the thing is paid off. The downside is that you might be short for a couple weeks. But if you can take care of the downside, the upside takes care of itself. A lot of investors think this way, okay? There's calculated risk where the upside is greater than the downside you don't worry about the downside as much, and then you protect the downside or hedge against the downside as much as you can. An ill-advised risk is jumping off the roof of a building when there's no reason for you to do it, okay? You're not in danger. The building's not on fire. There's no reason for you to be jumping off a building. You just did it because you thought it'd be cool, or maybe you want to make some content. And the downside is you could die. And the upside is you get a cool moment on social media, maybe, or a cool story. That's an ill-advised risk, right? And most people understand the difference. But when you're stuck, a lot of times you take more ill-advised risk than calculated risk. You get involved with someone that is really not right for you, but you feel like, well, if I don't pull the trigger now, if I don't get into a relationship now, it may never happen, which is not true. But we tell ourselves these things and we don't really think in terms of, what if this person is a psychopath? What is what if this person is someone that could set me back years because of just being, in a relationship with them? We don't really think about those things. We just think in terms of the here and now. When you're feeling stuck, you feel impatient. You don't want to wait. But even with that, even with waiting, that's not always a silver bullet either. A lot of people think, well, if I just hold out, right? If I'm just patient enough, then, my ship will come in. And that's true to an extent if you're in the right mindset. But if you're not in the right mindset, it doesn't matter if your ship comes in or not. If the right ship comes in, you're not going to handle it correctly because you're not in the right mental framework. So, what does it mean to, to be in the right mental framework? Excuse me. In the right mental framework, you're saying, okay, I have to readjust my mind to be the person that has the thing. Okay. So if I want more money, if I want more responsibility at the job, if I want to be a business owner, I can't think the same as I have been thinking up to now. And that's probably why I don't have what it is that I want. There are a lot of single people who want to be married, but they're selfish. And when you're selfish, marriage doesn't work. Okay? Because there's another person that you're in a relationship with, and their needs matter as much as yours does. And so the selfishness part a lot of times keeps single people who really would make great partners if they could just figure out how to live not just for themselves, but for someone else. For people who want to be entrepreneurs that are employees, right? Do you understand that you have to create the paycheck? You can't just wait on the paycheck, right? When you're an employee, you work and you wait on the paycheck. When you're an employer, you have to create the paycheck, excuse me. You have to go out and you have to get business. You have to go out and get clients. This is something that I struggled with for years. Not the getting clients part, but the understanding that I have to get clients part. Okay? Because it's a completely different mindset. It's a completely different way of thinking. If I don't create the paycheck, then there's no paycheck. And it's not just for me, but anyone working with me. It's for my family. It's for anyone that is depending on me. I've got to create the paycheck. That means I have to go and I have to get business. I have to talk to people. I have to be, I have to network, you know? And so for people, when that's not how you're mentally oriented, you're not gonna be able to enter into that next level. And so you remain stuck because your desire doesn't match your reality. Okay? When your desire doesn't match your reality, it creates stuckness. Okay? So what you have to do is one of two things. You either bring down your desire or get rid of it, or you bring up your reality to match your desire. Okay? Now, the first part, it's hard to do. It's hard to turn off a desire. Okay? I had a desire to go to medical school, had it for years, and it wouldn't go away. And it didn't matter how much it cost, whether it was financial, whether it was, relationships, it didn't matter how much it cost. I was going to make it happen, and I did. I made it. Now, my prayer should have been to become a doctor, not just make it to medical school. But you live and you learn, right? If you're going to dream, if you're going to pray for something, pray for the whole thing, not just a piece of it. Okay. But I did make it, and I overcame many obstacles to get there. But, you know, when it came time to give that up, it was hard for me. It was hard, you know? Um, and I still get asked every now and then, do you ever regret it? And I can honestly say I don't, because I believe that, God has another plan for me. But it was interesting how long it took for me to give up that desire. So your desires aren't going to go away quietly. And it's going to take time for you to get rid of them. And some desires aren't meant to be gotten rid of. Some desires are God-given desires. And it's really just a matter of you deciding that I have to become a different person to have this thing that I want in my life. Okay. To have a wife and child, I had to become a different person than I was, in my early 20s. Okay. Because I was selfish. I was immature. I was naive. I wasn't someone who was really fit to be in a relationship. So I had to become someone different. And in no way am I saying that I've arrived or, I do everything right. Far from it. But I couldn't be the same person, even though, yeah, would it be great to, having children earlier and younger? Is that probably the ideal thing to do? Probably, because you have more energy, you have more, um, get up and go to do all the errands and the play dates and everything else. But I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for that. Cause I was thinking about myself. It was about me. I didn't, I didn't have the bandwidth to care for other people in that way. Right. So when the desire came for me to have a family and to be married and everything else, my desire did not match up with my reality. And what happened is that a lot of relationships didn't work out because I didn't have a ton, but the relationships that I did have didn't work out because what I thought, what I wanted, I wasn't the person to have what I wanted. Does that make sense? So I just wasn't there. So sometimes that's why you're stuck. But regardless of the reasons that you're stuck, how do you get out? Okay. So I teach mental skills. And so, my answer to everything is mental skills, right? Just like people who are mental health advocates, their answer to everything is therapy. And they're not wrong. Okay. And there's times when you need both. But for me, the answer is taking your mind and readjusting it to become the person that you want to be. You want to be a person that's unstuck. You want to be a person that has the relationship, that has the career, that um, has the financial resources, has the health, right? So how do you get there? So it's 4 steps. And it's a part of my framework when I'm helping people. The first step is, basically your what the world calls affirmations. I'll call them faith statements, right? You got to start talking different. If you're stuck, you got to start talking different. Players that are stuck in slumps, athletes that are stuck in slumps, um, you know, these sports psychologists will tell them your self-talk got to change it. You got to stop saying negative things. You got to stop saying, I'll never get out of debt. You got to stop saying, I'll never get out of this hole. You got to stop saying that there ain't no good men out here. Ain't no women worth having out here. You got to stop saying that. Because as long as you have this negative self-talk going on, your mind is basically restarting the program, okay? Your computer, especially if you had a Windows, you would get what's called the blue screen of death, right? And the blue screen of death is basically it's like a screen with letters on it. But if you've dealt with Windows long enough, when you got the blue screen of death, you ain't getting no work done today. And you're probably not getting any work done for a while unless you know someone who's good with computers. Blue screen of death means that computer is kaput for the time being. And a lot of people, your mind is kind of giving the blue screen of death because of your negative self-talk, right? You're shutting yourself down because of how you talk about yourself, how you talk about your situation. Excuse me. Even if your situation is trash, even if it's terrible, stop talking about it. Okay? Find something good to talk about. Okay? And maybe the good thing is lunch. Maybe the good thing is the glass of water you just had. But you got to start talking better about something, right? And then when it comes to the situation, neutralize the negativity. And instead of saying, I'll never get out of debt, say something like, I'm getting a lot of ideas about, increasing my income, right? And then you just start thinking from that place. And you start focusing on, instead of focusing on the big debt that you have, maybe focus on, a $25 collection item or a $50 collection item and say, you know what, I'm paying that off, right? Or maybe it's $100 credit card balance and, I'm going to pay that off. And you focus on the thing that you can conquer, right? And then you start getting those small wins, right? And that's how you get unstuck. You don't get unstuck usually in one fell swoop. You get unstuck piece by piece, little by little. You do one thing at a time, right? You got to, you're trying to trying to lose weight. We've all been there, right? What do? You're not going to lose 100 pounds in a week. At least I hope you don't, right? Because if you lose that much weight at one time, it means you're sick and you got bigger problems. So instead of looking at, well, I got to lose 100 pounds, lose 1 pound, right? You focus on the 1 pound and you put all your energy, you bring all your energy to bear on 1 pound. And with the affirmations, with the faith statements, you're just saying that I am at my ideal weight, right? You start talking as if you're there. And then you start acting as if you're there, right? And in reality, you're not there, but you weren't there before. But the difference now is that you're talking better, you're talking right, and you have greater control over your mind now because your mind is not just running off at every single negative thing that comes to mind, right? Now you're thinking better. You're in a better, mindset. And then in time, what happens is that you start getting that momentum. All right. But we're not going to get there just yet. You start with the faith statements, then you start with the visualization. If things are not looking the way that you want them to look, then you make them look the way you want it to look. Okay. The gift that the designer has, the gift that the web designer, the graphic designer, the interior designer, the photographer, the gift that they all have is that they can see something better than the way it looks at the moment. And you've got to incorporate that. And the thing is that when you were a kid, you did do this. It's called make believe, right? Think of a time when you were a kid. Excuse me. When you were a kid, You play make believe, and you made this thing. You made a cart into a race car. Okay, you made a box into a dream house. Right. My daughter would play with this box, and she called her rocket ship. And there was a time when I was going to throw it away, and she drew a fit when I was about to throw this thing away. She said, "You can't throw away my rocket ship." And I just said, "You know what? You got it." Right. And it's part of part of parenthood is that you got to know what battles to fight. Right. And so I said, "You know what? You got that." Right. But that's the power of imagination. You see something different than the way it looks right now. And if you can do it then, you had that skill as a child. You can do it now. Okay. When I was, struggling financially, I would make new bank statements. I would just I would go into like whatever program I had, and I would remake the bank statement and make it look like how I wanted to look. Okay? Because I've been looking at it as it is and it ain't working. Okay? So I'm going to change the way that it looks. And I'm going to look at that instead of looking at what I've been looking at. Right? Is that delusion? Maybe. But you've been keeping it real all this time, and how's that working out? Okay? You've been stuck all this time. How's that working out? You have to reset the mind. It's like those old cars. Some mechanics, they would just kick the engine or kick something and the thing would start, right? Because sometimes we just need that jolt. We need that little bump, right? To break the pattern, to break the mental pattern of feeling sorry for yourself and sulking and being mad at the world instead of, you know, saying, "Hey, I'm not stuck. I'm never stuck." Especially if you're in America, you're never stuck. This is a free country. You can do whatever you want to do. Now there's rewards and consequences, of course, but you're free to think and you're free to say and you're free to talk. And you can create a new reality right there in your house. The house that you hate, the house that you want to leave. You can create a reality right there. Okay? So, but visualization is that you got to see it differently than how it is. The next thing is scripting. And I used to do this heavy years ago, and I'm getting back into it now, but you basically now you write out how you want it to be. Okay? Um and this is something that's done obviously in Hollywood. Every actor has to read a script. Okay? And the script is usually written by someone else, and the actor has to memorize the script before they come on the set. Excuse me. So, whether you see Tom Cruise or Meryl Streep or Angela Bassett or Denzel Washington or whoever, right? Before they get in front of that camera, they have to have that script down pat, right? And so in your life, if there's things that you don't like, if there's things that are not pleasing to you, that are not agreeable to you, whether it's your work, whether it's your relationships, your dating life, your health, your finances, whatever it is, you write out how you want it to be instead of continually rehearsing how it is. This is scripting. Okay. There's a movie long time ago, the late John Candy. It's called Delirious. And in that movie, he plays a scriptwriter, a Hollywood scriptwriter. And he realized that he had the power to control his life. He would write the script. He would write a script of what he wanted to see. And what he wrote ended up happening, right? And it's a funny movie, but in reality, that's how life works. We can script things how we want it to be, right? And God gives you the power to do this. In the Bible it says write the vision and make it plain, right? And in the end, it will speak and it will not lie. that he may run that read of it, right? I'm taking it out of order, but you get the point. You got to write out the script that you want. Okay. If your body's not responding, then you gotta write out, that health. I have health. I have good health. I have plenty of money. I have more than enough money, more money than I need, more than I desire. Me and my family are harmonious. We're in good, we're in a good place. We're on good terms. Okay. You write out what it is that you want. And I promise you, 90% of the world's not doing this, maybe even higher than that. So you write out that script and you write it in detail. And once you've written out that script, then the fourth thing is called the actor's technique. Now, the actor's technique, this is something that people in acting school, actors do this where they become the person that they're playing, right? So the reason why Denzel was so convincing in Malcolm X is because he became Malcolm X, right? He became Malcolm X. He and Malcolm X were the same person in his mind, right? So when we see him on the screen, it's as if we're watching Malcolm X. We forget that that's Denzel, right? We see Malcolm X. When Jamie Foxx played Ray Charles, won an Oscar for it, okay? He became Ray Charles. It was as if we were watching Ray Charles as a young person, as a younger person, right? And all the great actors, you just name them. Anytime they play a biopic, they become the person that they're playing. And even if it's not a real person that they're playing, they become whoever that person is on that script. Okay? So the actor's technique is that you embody the person that you want to be. So if you're a healthy person, you're acting as if you are a healthy person, right? So if you're a healthy person, what are you not doing? You're not complaining about how much things hurt. You're not complaining about the rain. You're not complaining about the snow. You're not complaining about the cold, right? And I'm not trying to be mean, but if you want to be healthy, then you're not complaining about those things. You're not talking about it. And you get real good, you're not even feeling it, right? I remember like some aches and pains tried to come on me it was like last year. And immediately I said, I feel good. I feel great. Best I ever felt. And I just kept saying that over and over again. The pain went away. The pain went away, and it wasn't anything, it was just like minor aches and pains. So it wasn't anything that I needed to, go see a doctor about. But my point is that if my role is to be financially viable, I'm not complaining about how much things cost. I know things cost a lot now. Yeah, I know inflation's kicking butt and taking names. I get that. But I'm not going to talk about it. I mean, there may be times where I've slipped up, but you know, I, I do my best to catch myself, right? Because I'm playing a wealthy person. I'm playing someone who is wealthy, who has resources, has abundant resources. So that actors think me, I gotta play that part, right? I gotta become that person in my mind. And so when you do these four things, what happens is that your mind undergoes a metamorphosis. And like the Bible says, you're transformed by the renewing of your mind. You will transform yourself. And the stuckness is going to fall off of you. And like I said, it may fall off of you in phases, and that's the likely way it will happen. Or it may fall off of you all at one time if you're really good at this, right? And you get to a point where it's like you're looking back on how stuck you felt. And now you know you're free to move forward. And if you ever feel yourself going back, now you know how to get out of it and how to stay out of it. So hopefully this helps you. Hopefully this, did you some good. I enjoyed teaching it. Thank you so much for watching me, listening to me. I don't take it for granted. If you want to work with me one-on-one, I'm going to have a link in the YouTube description, and I'll also have a link on the podcast, so you can, set up a free consultation to go over some things that maybe you want some help with. So, thank you so much for listening. My name is Martin Williams, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to Playbook Radio. If this episode helped you, please share it with family and friends. For more about Playbook Strategies, please go to GameplanPlaybook.com.